for a special treat. We have a guru for you. And the title of this session was called Blow Up Your Social Media with Dan Shinder. And that's exactly what we're going to do, because you have the benefit and wonderful experience of meeting a man who is an incredible drummer. He's host of his fabulous podcast called Social Media on Stereos, and he's the CEO and founder of Drum Talk TV, which if any of you out there are drummers, you know this well. And Dan is very kind to take his time tonight to share some of the strategies he used to grow his following on Facebook from 100,000 people to over 1 million. And we're not going to waste any time. We're going to dive right in so you guys can get the best from Mr. Dan. And welcome, Dan Shinder.
Thank you very much. I'm really grateful to be here. Thanks so much, Beth and Christina.
So Dan, the drummer, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got in. How did you start in the crazy world of the music industry? And what led you from that to become the guru that you are now?
Well, the beginnings were that I had older cousins in the mid-60s. Well, they're older, always older than me, but in the mid-late 60s, I was being turned on to music by them of the scene of the late 60s. And one of them played drums, and he was 13 and I was 6 and change, and I wanted to play drums. And it got to a point where my parents were crazy enough to say, we'll give you drum lessons, and if you stick with it, we'll buy you a drum set for your 7th birthday. I stuck with it. They bought me a drum set for my 7th birthday.
And the rest is history.
Pretty much. But into my teens, it never occurred to me to be a drummer. I was playing extremely complicated music. Yes, Genesis, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin, Jethro Tull, a lot of crazy music at the time.
Santana.
For Santana, Gentle Giant. For someone who was 10, 11, 12, it was pretty outrageous music. Well, when I was 14, my dad took me to my first concert. It was at the LA Forum down the street from where I was born. And it was a flash in the pan band. No one's probably ever heard of them that's watching this, but a band called Led Zeppelin. And by the third song, this light bulb went on above my head. I wanted to be the next Jacques. Yeah, I wanted to be a scientist. I wanted to be Jacques Cousteau. I wanted to be an oceanographer. But by the third song, I thought, wait a minute, you mean like this could be a job? So a few days later, I broke the news to my parents that I don't want to be an oceanographer anymore. What do you want to be? I want to be a professional drummer. My mom literally fell over.
Kaboom.
Yeah, but my parents were so supportive because exactly 1 year later, my mom found an audition for a singing group going on tour that needed to replace their drummer who was leaving. And I got the gig. And at 15, I got my first paid professional gig touring from Los Angeles to Long Island and back a different way.
It wasn't Up With People, was it?
It was very much like Up With People. It was called Spirit of America.
I know that.
Yep. And I was the drummer on the 78 and 79 tour. We opened for Styx, Heart, Blue Oyster Cult, Seals and Crofts, Pat Boone, the Osmonds. The Osmonds drummer tracked me down after a show, brought me backstage. I saw the very first Yamaha drum set to hit the United States. It was an amazing experience for a 15-year-old. And then they asked me back the following summer. And that's what bit me and how I became a professional musician. Grew up playing up and down the Sunset Strip in Hollywood, played all the places my parents dated in the late 50s, the Troubadour and places like that. And then, I did the whole thing, chasing the record deal, being on the radio, going on tour, playing all over Los Angeles and whatnot. And I eventually got tired of being in bands, and I went into producing, composing and recording music for commercials and short films, voice casting, voice directing, doing voiceovers myself. And eventually I totally got out of music altogether. Started having kids, getting married again, having more kids, on and on and on. That's another story. And then I ended up falling in love with the medium of video when I had a cooking show on television.
Oh, stop.
Yeah, and then I ended up having a video production company for 14 years, and I lived in Australia the last 2 years of that, working with the charter yacht industry, the Sydney to Hobart, and I came back because my mom had passed and my father was dying. So I came back in time to see him pass away, they thought. But when I came back and he saw me, he like came back to life, and I ended up being his 24/7 caregiver for 16 weeks. And then when he passed away, I was 50 and had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. So I told my wife, I don't want to work with big companies anymore, because I worked with a lot of big companies, Citibank, Wells Fargo, McDonald's, the charter yacht industry in Australia, Sydney to Hobart. And I said, let me just do your marketing. She's an artist of many disciplines, does stage clothing for performers. She's a seamstress. So I started doing that, and she came to me like 3 months later and said, I think you need to, I think you need to find something that really fills your cup. And I didn't know what I wanted to do. And she said, sorry, let me turn my phone off. I apologize. One sec. Why is someone calling me on Facebook Messenger? Who does that? So she said, you should do something that really, suits you. And I didn't know what to do. She said, why don't you give drum lessons? And in that instant, I thought, I know streaming video. I did used to teach drum lessons. That'll turn off. Sorry, it's coming through the computer. And I'm a trained trainer. It's someone trying to call me on Facebook Messenger. I don't know why. Okay, there we go. I'm going to answer it next time. Just tell them not to call me. Sorry. So I decided to do online lessons because I knew streaming video. I knew production. I did teach drum lessons. I'm a trained trainer. I did that for about 6 months, but started interviewing fellow educators. And my wife saw me do a couple interviews and said, that's what you should do. And I tried to say, no, it's all about the lessons. This is just a separate thing. Long story short, she convinced me that that's what I should do. I dropped the lessons, turned it into Drum Talk TV, and that was 8 years and 8 months ago.
And 900,000 people.
What's that?
And 900,000 people, right?
No, right now on Facebook alone, 1.2 million followers. We reach about 4 to 10 million people a week just on Facebook alone, not counting Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Vimeo. So it's been pretty interesting. And we've done that 100% organically, never paying for ads, never boosting posts, all with my strategies that I developed, which I'm very proud of because we came out of nowhere. And in the first year, we surpassed all the other media companies in music covering the world of drumming by 900% combined in online reach and engagement. And when that was brought to my attention in that first year, that's when I realized I want to start another company teaching people how to do this so they can thrive doing what they love. And I started teaching it in the music industry, and I still do. And I've branched out into many, many other industries. I work with all kinds of industries, from Ford dealerships to real estate trainers to authors, speakers. It just goes on and on and on.
That is so amazing, Dan. So I'm gonna interrupt this broadcast to say, please like and follow Dan and Drum Talk TV on YouTube, and like and follow and subscribe to Music Row 411 on YouTube. So we can all be learning from each other. But that is a very impressive story, and I can't wait for you to dive into your strategies, and Christina's going to help talk about that. But first of all, I want to ask you what, in your opinion today, right now in 2021, as you know, there's a lot of disruption going on in the social media industry. What would you say are your favorite, or you consider the top 3 social media platforms that people should be using on a regular basis and learning? Because there's a lot to choose from and more coming every day.
Yeah, and you don't need 10 channels. You don't need 50 channels. You just don't. And people might be very shocked of what my answer to this question is, but other than in most cases, unless you're B2B, business to business, it's Facebook. It's Facebook, Facebook, Facebook. And for those of you that are under 50, for those of you that are under 40, for those of you that are under 30 or under 20 that think Facebook is just for old farts like me, you're wrong. I hear over and over, the kids aren't on Facebook. The older people aren't on Instagram. No one's on TikTok. Everyone is effing everywhere. Every age group is everywhere. Now, that doesn't mean that every 18 to 24-year-old is on Facebook and every 50-year-old is on Instagram, but 50-year-olds are on Instagram and TikTok, and 18 to 24-year-olds are on Facebook. I have all the data to prove it. So people need to stop listening to the myths and the BS and stop doing things that everyone else is doing just because that's what everyone else is doing, and really learn this stuff from people who have gotten great results and have their finger on the pulse of the industry and the consumer behaviors and habits of people. So Facebook, number 1. Did I mention that? Facebook, number 1, YouTube, number 2, and I'll explain why. And I hate to say this, but maybe Instagram, number 3. And I say maybe because I'm not totally sold on Instagram. A lot of you are going to think that's crazy. Hang in there. Hang in there with me. But TikTok, I love TikTok. Drum Talk TV has 2 TikTok channels that are hidden. They're not public yet for reasons I won't waste time with right now, but they're good things. I'm on TikTok as a consumer. It's my favorite social media platform as a consumer. The reason why I waffle on Instagram is because you need to be there because people expect you to be. So when they look you up and see you there, that's called social proof. If you're gaining traction and have a following. But the reason I think Instagram otherwise is a waste of time is it's not easy to drive traffic from Instagram. If you're a business, and musicians, you're a business, you're a brand.
That's what we teach.
Yeah, there's no reason to be on a social platform if you're not going to drive traffic to where people can sign up for your email list, download a PDF, learn what you have to offer, whatever it is. And Instagram is not easy to drive traffic simply because you can't put hot links in the post. If people say, well, but you can build a sales funnel into the bio. This is how people use Instagram. Watch, here we go. Oh, wow. Oh, that's cute. Look at the puppy. Look at that hair. That's stupid. Oh, my niece, a heart. Scroll, 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 scroll. It's very hard to get people to say, oh, okay, let me click your link, go to your bio, read about your offer. That's just not how Instagram is used. Are there people having success with it? Absolutely. But for the most part, most people are doing what most people do, and that's copy what most people are doing because it must be right? No, most people are doing it wrong. So everyone is, I like to use the term, following each other over the cliff if they're not going to learn from people.
That's a good one.
Results. Yes, that herd mentality. So I hate to say that, but I'm not real excited about Instagram. But you got to be there.
And there are a lot of bots. Now people are building bots that they seem like people answering you in the DMs, but they're really bots. And there are a couple tricks, which maybe you'll talk about during, when you're talking, but how to recognize when something is a bot. And I haven't seen bots on Facebook, but I probably don't know what they look like. So.
Yeah, no, I think that more importantly, even that regarding bots and the algorithms everyone's always crying about, it all comes down to 2 things. And that's understanding your target market and creating exceptional content to share with them that matters to them. It's not a vanity project. If you're going to serve a community of people, whether it's musicians, lumberjacks, the dental society, realtors, people who love motorcycles, hot rods, whatever it is, you've got to post for them and the content has to resonate with them or it doesn't mean anything. And later when we get into more of this sort of the mechanical stuff with Christina and with my little tips that I'm going to share on my screen and show some things, I'll share the number one things that people are messing up every day because they're copying everyone who's doing it wrong. So it all comes down to really having good content. That's subjective. So what does that mean? It means something different to everybody. So that means we need to understand our audience. I'll get more into that later.
So that is really excellent advice, Dan. And obviously, for somebody that has had so much success and done the hard work of testing and proving and testing again and trying different forms of engagement, I'm dying to hear what you have to tell us. So, Christina, why don't you take it away and we'll get into the meat of how Dan has been successful with his strategies and how he developed them.
Thank you, Beth. Welcome, Dan. So it's been great just meeting you on the virtual NAM last year and connecting on one of your sessions. And so Dan has built a global presence of 1 million active followers over 130 countries. And so he has some tips and different steps to help you in just a little bit. But before I actually start that, Dan, I have some questions to start off for your background. And so what has started your passion for social media marketing and what led you to do this full time?
So when I started Dan's drum clinics, which was before Drum Talk TV that I mentioned, I knew that if I was going to sell online lessons, I needed to attract people. And I knew that just advertising and promoting what my offer was not necessarily going to be the thing to attract people. So I started thinking, what else could I post about? And it came down to the common interest between what I'm offering and whom I'm offering it to. So that's music and drumming. So I started posting about all sorts of things within that ecosystem of that topic, if you will. And I attracted followers from 64 countries before I ever published the first drum lesson. So by the time Drum Talk TV came around 5-6 months later, I had established some chops of how to do all this. And in the 7th week of Drum Talk TV, I still have the screenshot of the insights report on the Facebook page. In the first 7 weeks, we had 47,000 followers and we're reaching 999,000 people that week.
Wow.
And it just showed me it works. Now, since then, there's been many, many changes and everyone's saying the sky's falling. You'll never reach the same amount of people we have. We're still reaching many more than that now. And we've never paid for ads. We've never boosted posts. So I became fanatical, really, or obsessive almost with watching our numbers, because in growing Drum Talk TV, people said, how are you going to monetize that? My friends were asking me. And I said, and we're all like kind of around the same age. So I said, well, remember before cable, before satellite, what did you do with the TV? You turned it on and there was magically a show. How was there a show? How did that get paid for? Well, it got paid for because there were commercials. So a company would pay money to advertise on a show that had the eyeballs of people that matched up with whatever that company was offering. So I said, I'm going to treat it just like old-fashioned terrestrial television, build this enormous audience and sell advertising space. Like, how does this even sound complicated? And everyone thought I was crazy. So I started really doing the same thing as I did before, not just posting our interviews and event coverage, but all sorts of other topics about gear, about influences, technique, solos, and really not what the other drumming media companies are doing. Nothing against them. We've done a lot of things with them, but most of them are doing the same thing. The big rock stars, pop stars, jazz stars, educators, and a couple new knuckleheads on the scene. We do all of that, but we cover marching, symphonic, concert band, jazz. We cover music in Morocco. We did a year and a half ago, we did 2 documentaries in Japan about taiko drumming. We've been to the Singapore Drum Fest 3 times. We cover music literally from all over the world, West Africa, North Africa, South Africa. And I knew that our interviews and event coverage were like, if we were a shoe store and we sold shoes, if all we posted was what shoes are for sale, what shoes are for sale, people would get tired of that. So I mixed in all this other content, and that's how we built that following. And it was when Lori in the first year showed me what our numbers were, reaching 900% more online reach and engagement than all of our competitors. That's when I said, I want to start a company teaching people how to do this. And I developed the Social Media on Steroids series of workshops, courses, different things like that. And now the podcast, and that's how that came about. So I'm cursed and blessed with two very busy full-time careers. I'm the Drum Talk TV guy, and I'm the Social Media on Steroids guy. And they're both about 80 hours a week. I don't know how that works out, but it does.
I think as you get older, you don't sleep as much.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And if, I find myself, there's so much interesting information out there that it's just, I don't know, it's really compelling to learn new things and learn about people like yourself who are reinventing ways to do things and solving people's problems. And that's what we do at MR411. We teach people how to learn how to do it the right way in a shorter amount of time and in a more efficient use of their time so that they can get to the good stuff, which is creating music, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's been quite a journey. But yeah, that's how the two converged and how that came about, Christina.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. That it just seems like with all that experience and like branching to different networks is leads me to the other question is, with being the background musician, being a drummer, I'm sure you've used social media to launch your revenue as a musician, right? And you've seen a growth in that in the past.
Yeah, definitely. In a few different ways. And by the way, folks, what I teach works for pretty much any industry. It's not just that we're a media company, so it worked for us. I've worked with Ford dealerships. I worked with, like I said, real estate trainers, people in health and wellness, the food industry, banks, restaurants. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So I've seen the revenue grow with Drum Talk TV, being that, and think about this for a minute, musicians and songwriters, and how this equates to your world. We've increased our revenue because we've increased our following and engagement. So we're able to sell that advertising space. As a musician, no matter what your role is, as a songwriter, no matter how you fit in, whether you're the performer or just writing the songs, either way, you have to have a large following and to sell more. And the larger the following, the more you're going to sell if you do all the other steps right. Think of it this way. Would you rather sell to 5% of 1,000 people following you? Or would you rather sell to 5% of 10,000 people following you, or 100,000 people following you? And I hate to say this, but there's a lot of people in the music industry who either don't want to learn this stuff, they think they know what they're doing, and they really have no clue. They're making all the errors, or they think they don't need to. They think they're entitled, or that someone else is going to do it for them. Their management, the PR company, the record company, none of them know how to do it. None of them know how to do it. I can't stress that enough. The PR companies for Levi's, Tabasco, and Nike don't know how to do it for them. So how do you think the independent record label, or Capitol for that matter? And I don't mean to like talk down about anyone. This is the truth. This is a very unique skill set that you need to learn. If you were going to college to learn how to be a chiropractor, you wouldn't learn it from someone who paints cars, and you wouldn't learn how to paint show cars from someone who's a horticulturalist or a gardener. It's the same thing. You can't just copy what everyone else is doing, because all you're doing is learning everybody's mistakes. A friend of mine who writes business books quotes, and I quote him in almost everything I do. In every one of his books, he says, never take advice from someone who hasn't done what you want to do. And in social media, everyone with one of these says they do social media. And all that means is they're just putting stuff up there and out there, and they don't know the strategies because they didn't learn them. Someone turned me down. I cannot even say this with a straight face. Someone turned me down, a company, for me to train their social media. Like I could provide their service as an agency. We do that too. But I said, let me just train him. Let me show. They said, we don't want to spend money to train him because if it doesn't work out with him, we'll hire someone else. The guy said, I believe that social media marketing should be instinctive. Let me ask you all something. Is being a dentist instinctive, or do you have to go to school for it? Is being
My
an
dad
auto
was a
mechanic,
dentist.
or a nurse, or an auto mechanic, or a landscaper? I just could not. That's the craziest objection I ever heard. So that's sort of a long answer. Sorry, Christina, as to not only the fact that Drum Talk TV's revenue grew because of that, but how I wanted to make sure I equate it to the folks that are watching, that are in different aspects of the music industry.
Well, that's just really great advice, Dan. And if there's an old saying, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. And social it's one thing to wish to have a social media following, but it's not just pretty pictures. It's
Right.
the kind of thing that you gave a tremendous amount of thought to, and came up with techniques and strategies. Correct?
Exactly right. Yeah. There is really a method to the madness.
So before we go crazy, let's talk about the method.
So I sigh because I'm thinking, okay, where do I go? There's a deep matrix. Again, the number one thing is knowing your audience, and don't assume that they're all the same, even if they want the same thing. And what I mean by that is one size fits all marketing just doesn't work. So let's step out of music for a moment for total objectivity, and let's take a hiking boot, for example. If I had a hiking boot brand and all my videos on TV, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, if all my hiking boot advertisements featured senior citizens like me, 18 to 24 and 25 to 34-year-olds and whatnot, would think, oh, those boots are for old people. I'm young. I'm going on a real hike. I need real boots. But if the same boot we advertised featuring only 18 to 24-year-olds, the seniors would say, oh, those boots are for the kids. I need boots for my rickety ass feet with all the mileage on them. But it's the same boots. So people need to see themselves in the marketing and in the advertising. So you might be asking yourself, switching back to music, if I am trying to sell my single, if I'm trying to sell tickets for my show, if I'm trying to, I'm not saying that you need to plug in different age groups for that, but you need to use different versions of wording in the text. And you can't just post a picture of you and say, I'm playing at XYZ place on this date. That's not enough. You've got to use video. You got to show people, why should they buy tickets? Wow, I can't believe how much advertising and promoting I see, which is not marketing, by the way. We'll get to that. How much advertising and promoting I see by all kinds of brands that just say buy it, or just sign up, or buy a ticket. But we're all consumers. Think about it. We all need the why. Why should I go? Why should I go see you play? Why should I buy the album? Why should I consider performing your song? Why should I produce you? Why should we sign you? Why should we give you an endorsement deal? Why? And that's where the storytelling comes in. Successful content marketing on social media or in email marketing, any which way, is all about storytelling. And that doesn't mean that every post is a long story of 9 paragraphs. It means every post is part of your story. So we can't just advertise to people. We have to humanize the experience and invite people in and be inclusive. So those are the first steps to creating content that's going to resonate with your fans. We have to make sure it's for them and not just be constantly jamming down their throats what we want them to buy. If you're a band or an artist and you say, buy my shirt, buy my album, download my single, come to my gig. If that's all you post, why should I follow you? And God forbid I buy your shirt, download your single, buy your album, go to your gig, then what? There's got to be so much more to, and that's where the marketing comes in. The promoting and advertising will only be answered to if the marketing is compelling. So if you do your marketing right and lay that foundation, when you advertise something, people will take notice of it. You have to build trust, likability, and brand love with the marketing and build interest before people even care what you're selling, or let alone, read the reason why they should buy. So those are some of the most important first steps in setting out to make content that's going to actually produce results. Right. Sorry, some of my answers are kind of long.
Okay. And it's almost like credibility, building the credibility and bring real life stories to relate to.
Exactly. Right. We can't just say this boot is for sale. Why buy it? And then along with that, what are some of our favorite hiking excursions? What are some popular trails? What is there to do at every now? There's so many things to talk about to get people to fall in love with the brand and follow the brand. What's the point of advertising something if there's not a captivated audience to see it, Oh, you're on mute, Beth.
Beth, unmute.
Sorry, can you give us an example of how you do this with Drum Talk TV?
Sure. So instead of just posting our interview, so what we do is we do interviews, we do event coverage, we do documentaries, and we have 3 original series. So instead of just posting that, I knew in the beginning that maybe our interviews won't be their favorite thing. Maybe they won't follow us just because we're saying, hey, watch this interview, watch this interview, watch this interview. And you got to sit at the grown-ups table and say to yourself, that's okay if our core product isn't going to be their favorite thing. We have to think what is going to be their favorite thing to keep their attention, so that when we do advertise an interview or documentary or one of our sponsors selling something, they will be present. And that's when I started posting things that are of the common interest. So that could be how to select gear. What's the difference between wood shells and certain species of wood and aluminum or steel or hammered brass? What's the difference between coated heads or clear heads? What's the difference in the different cymbals? Why clean cymbals? Why not clean cymbals? What are some of the essential things you need to have on a gig? What's the difference between marching drum snare chops and funk snare chops? It goes on and on and on. But then also things like, what was the first album you ever bought? What was the first album you ever learned music to? What's your favorite album? What's your most recent album? There's 4 posts right there that you could talk about and also ask your audience. What was the first concert you went to? Your favorite concert? The furthest you drove for a concert? The most you ever paid for a concert? The most surprising concert that over-delivered? Your most recent concert? The least you paid for a concert? There's 7 posts right there. So when you post about the common interest, now they're following you, and then you pop the advertisement, not paid. You pop the post in front of them about your show, about your single, about your album, about your music education book or whatever it is. And you've got a community that already trusts you and loves what you're doing. So they're going to pay attention to what you're promoting. And it works with anything. It works with music. It works with a shoe store. It works with a motorcycle dealership, boat dealership, horticultural center, even a pooper scooper service. If we had a pooper scooper service where you pay $60 to us a month, we come once a week, we scoop the poop off your lawn, out of your garden and all that. What else could we post about other than us coming to clean up your poop? Well, what's the common interest?
Clean lawns.
At clean lawns and dogs. So we could post about dogs. Dogs tricks, dogs diet, dog grooming, dog health, what dogs go with other dogs, what dogs go with cats, what dogs go with kids, what dogs go with the elderly. There's 8 posts right there. So when you can build that muscle and not make it a vanity project and understand that we need community around our brand. You've got to build a community around your brand, or no one's going to follow you no matter what the business is, if all we're going to do is advertise. Now, when I get into my little demonstration later, I actually have some slides that show that.
Thanks, Dan, for just covering that and just all the possibilities, right? And just how it can grow their social media presence. And speaking of which, I know that you mentioned a little bit about Drum Talk TV. So what topics do you usually cover for the Drum Talk TV show and your social marketing podcast?
So I'll answer that in reverse. On my social media on steroids podcast, they're usually around between 20 and 28 minutes. And I cover like little nuggets, little pieces of this big matrix. And to give you an idea of how much content that is to cover, my deepest course that I teach is 12. I usually advertise it at 10 or 12 2-hour sessions. And sometimes it takes longer. Why could it take longer? People have more questions. I take longer to explain it. But think about that. 12 times 2, that's 24 hours of me constantly teaching things. So I take all these little nuggets and turn them into, let me just talk about, let's say it's a video. Let me just talk about what ages are where, like we talked. I have a whole episode on just what ages are where. And I have a whole episode on hashtags, a whole episode on how the current new introductions of new algorithms are, what are the new rollouts, because a lot of people, all they do is complain about them, but they don't take the time to learn about them. So that's basically what I share on the podcast of social media on steroids. Drum Talk TV content, I have a show called Dan's Almost Daily Vlog. That got me out of having to do it every day. I called it Dan's Almost Daily Vlog. And we're actually getting ready to fire that back up after a little break. And basically, it's live on Facebook, and it's from my studio, which is here, where I have an enormous drum set and a little jazz drum set and a PA, and I have like certain things queued up. And I'll converse live with the audience on Facebook. They'll chat in the comments, and we'll pick a specific thing. Maybe it's Phil Collins' birthday. So I've picked out some of my favorite work by Phil with Genesis, with Robert Plant and whatnot. And we'll talk about Phil's drumming, the music of Genesis, and then I'll play some things. I might demonstrate certain aspects. And that's basically the show. We'll just talk about music and drumming, and I play. And people make fun of me. It's great. It's a lot of fun. And then there's a show we do called Drumming Injury Talk with Dr. Nadia. Nadia Azar is a professor of kinesiology, and we talk about drumming injuries caused by bad ergonomics of a setup, repetitive motion injuries from drumming, and how to prevent them, how to get past them. And it's a really fun show. That's once a month. And then the things we post about on Drum Talk TV's channels, other than our interviews and documentaries, are those other things I mentioned, things about gear, things about your influences, favorite shows, all kinds of things like that, recording techniques, mics. It goes on and on and on. Ear protection or no ear protection. I'm just now starting to wear ear protection. Talk about too little, too late, but it's hopefully going to save what's left of my hearing. Yeah.
The common denominator is music. The unifying denominator is people. And the unique factor is niche, correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that a way
and the brand's story of whoever's posting it. That's the other element right there with niche, is also your story. It's your opportunity not to brag or boast, but to tell your story, because everyone can relate to your story. None of us are that so unique that, people can't relate to us. So by telling your story and asking people to share their story. So let's take one of those topics that I give Christina when we talk about what was you heard mine in the beginning when you asked people, here's, let's say it's my post on Drum Talk TV. Here's a solo by John Bonham, 1977. That's the year I saw him. That was my first concert. What was your first concert and who was the drummer? That would be the post. Now, all of a sudden, people are going to answer. There's no way people don't answer questions like that. They want to be part of it. You create an experience and people will partake. And that's really important. So now, what does that do? It gives them a voice, for better or worse. It gives everyone a voice. They participate. And now you can see who your audience is. Who are their drummers that they saw? Who are their first concerts? You can almost sort of figure out. You can even add, and how old are you if you want? And really sort of, and then you can add, if you see someone name a band that you're not familiar with or a drummer, check them out. Go find them. This is how we get turned on to new stuff. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. What you could do with the value of that content that's not about your product, but it's about your community that you're building around your brand so that people will care about your product when you advertise it. People won't care about it if all you're going to do is just post about it. And stop, musicians, please, stop posting headshots. Headshots work if you're Ben Franklin, Albert Einstein, Elvis Presley, and Jimmy Page. Otherwise, forget it. No one cares about headshots. Video, video, video. Action, action, action. Musicians want to see other musicians play, not a pose or sitting there with a pouty face in their car and a cigarette. No one cares about that. There's nothing compelling about it. Music is something you can hear and feel. Pictures don't do that.
Are there any other before we get into your slides and your presentation, are there any other absolute do not do's on your list that you would like to share with our folks?
Yeah, let me think where I should go with that. So stop asking people for it, like I said before, advice on this stuff who have not gotten great results. Like, think about that. Would you ask someone how to bake a cake if they never baked a cake, or their cake always collapsed or burned, or like, why would you ask them? So the rest of my answer is actually in the slides that I have. Okay. I have some big no-nos to share and some definitely do's to share.
Okay, great.
Should I do that now?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You can do your screen share.
Okay. There's screen share. Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
And you know what? Maybe I don't have to change my glasses. Let's see how this goes. It's fun being a senior citizen. So bear with me and start this. Okay, go back.
I'm going to stop my camera so that there's more screen for the slides.
Okay. Screen share. Here we go. I think this will work. Okay, screen share was canceled. You may click share on. Sorry, let me try that again.
Yeah, it should be the share icon on the bottom.
Share. Yeah, I tried that, but why isn't this working? Oh, window. This one. There we go. Bam. Okay, you can see my screen, right, folks?
Yep.
Okay, so I prepared this. From the inspiration from the wonderful Christina, a few big content marketing tips for creatives. Here we go. And take notes, folks. Take notes. The number one mistake, I'm going to reiterate some things, but the number one mistake in any industry, on social, on any channels, most people are just doing this. They're just promoting. And what's wrong with this picture? What's wrong with this picture is that there's no conversation. And when there's no conversation, there's nothing to learn. You can't learn from your target market. They can't learn from you other than what you're selling. But they need to learn more from you. They need to learn about you. And they need to...
I wanted to interrupt you, Dan. Someone said that they can't see the screen.
Oh. I'm not sure why. Are you able to see
there you go. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Thank you for commenting and letting us know. So we need to build conversation because successful social media marketing is a two-way street. We can't just be talking at them. It has to be both ways. Create an experience. So if all we do is say, this is for sale, that's for sale, download my single, come to my gig, buy, buy, buy. It's kind of like turning on the TV and saying, welcome to our channel. All we want to do is advertise to you. Would you watch a TV show like that? Would you listen to a radio station that played one song and then 25 minutes of commercials and then one song? No, of course not. So why do we run our social media channels like that? And I know why. Because when people got on social media for their business, it was to promote their business. But if that's all you're going to do, people will not follow you. And a lot of big brands, don't be fooled by numbers. A lot of big brands who have millions of followers online on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you look down their timeline and there's nothing happening on their posts. There's few to little comments. There's few to no comments. There's little to no shares because all they're doing is advertising. So people stop following, but the like is left behind the page. But size doesn't matter without performance. Oh, that applies to many areas of life, but we're still talking about marketing. Size doesn't matter without performance. Doesn't matter if you have 10 million followers or likes on your page if your content isn't performing and compelling people and getting them to share it to like-minded people. So people say, well, what else should we post? And it comes to what I said earlier. Exceptional content to share with your target market that matters to them. That should be 70 to 80% of your content, and only 20 to 30% should be what you're selling or what your offer is. And here's one of the things to do. We talked about what not to do. Here's one of the things to do. If you want more reach on any platform, if you want more engagement, oops, I went backwards. Just kidding. Video, video, and video. Those three things in that order are going to get you more reach and engagement. But there's all these other things that have to do with video that will determine whether or not it's going to be successful. And I'll mention just one of them is that, well, first of all, it's the most compelling form of content. Let's compare a photo. So there's a photo to a video. Will it play? It's not playing. Well, that's a video of a guy going nuts on the drums, which is always going to be more compelling than a photo. In 2019, video online drove 80% of all consumer sales. Video. When I had my production company and I sold video services, if anyone was on the fence about it, I'd say, well, you've heard of videos or pictures worth 1,000 words, right? They'd say, yeah. And I'd say, well, video's worth 1,000 pictures. Ooh, video, video, video. But as artists, I got to say this. Don't start out all lofty and artsy, fairy, wispy, big build up. They're gone. They're already gone. You got to hit them with the good stuff right from the beginning. Let me show you an example of how well this has worked for people that have worked for me. This is a pretty well-known drumming historian and educator who said, hey, you should use this in your presentations. She got on Facebook December 1st of 2015. I met her August 1st of 2016. She took a little bit of my stuff. You see her line going up, but right here, April of 2017, she took one of my courses. She was getting 180 new fans a week at the time, but she applied what I taught her just regarding video. And in 4 months, she had almost a 500% increase, 880 fans a week. Songwriters, musicians, artists, performers, creatives. Let me ask you a question. Do you think you might get more people to gigs? Do you think you might sell more music if you could have an audience made up of 880 people week after week after week, growing by 800? Can we just round it up to 1,000 versus getting 20 new followers a week? Of course you would. The 5% rule. If you can only sell 5% of your audience what you do you want that to be 5% of 1,000 people or 5% of 100,000 people? So that's how it works. Here's a big nut. For the love of whatever you believe in, stop filming videos like this with your smartphones. This is to talk. This is for video. This is to talk. This is for video. There's no video screen in the world shaped like this, except for Instagram and TikTok. But for any other platform, the player is shaped like this, just like your PC, your laptop, the screen you watch your shows and movies on at home, at the theater, YouTube player, Vimeo player, Facebook player. They're all shaped like this. Make videos like this. Look at the difference. Do you want to watch a video or show someone a video that makes it look like it's through a cracked open door, or show them what's really happening? This is a no-brainer. I don't know why the human race has this affliction of going, yeah, Music Row 411. Oh, yeah, I love those guys. Oh, hold on. There's a really neat hot rod going by. Got to make a video. What is up with that? Stop doing that, please. Everything I teach will get you better results. You have 4 to 10 seconds to grab their attention. There's 7-second hours of class. The difference between 4 and 10, and then they're gone already. And don't front load your videos with the brands you play. I know a lot of musicians do this. They want to give a nod to the brands that endorse them, and that's wrong. That's what everyone says. I'm endorsed by Gibson. I'm endorsed by Pearl. I'm endorsed by... No, you're not. You endorse the brands. But people front load their videos sometimes with these logos of their musical instruments, thinking it makes them look bigger. They're giving it a... First of all, honestly, no one cares. I'm just saying, right from here, no one cares, and you're wasting valuable time. You have 4 to 10 seconds, just like television, to grab people's attention, especially on this stupid thing, and especially on Instagram and TikTok, because this is the experience. And if your video is going to start out with some really fancy, wispy intro, no one cares. They're gone. And unfortunately, that is a reflection of how the human mind has developed. We need immediate gratification. And if it doesn't excite them, like give them goosebumps, raise their hair on the back of their neck, within 4 to 10 seconds, they're chasing another birdie. Be that birdie. Be the birdie they follow because of what you're providing. Provide a great experience. This is the biggest thorn in my side on social media. Folks, strap yourself in. Here we go. So one of the changes to Facebook, that's not the thorn. This is good. One of the changes to Facebook is increased reliance on hashtags. However, everyone's using hashtags wrong. Everyone, unless they've taken one of my workshops and have applied what I teach. I know that sounds cavalier. I know that sounds pompous, but it's the truth. And I'm going to show you by the time you're all done with this in the next 2 hours when we finish. By the time you're all done with this, you'll know more than the agencies that are doing this for Levi's, Tabasco, Coca-Cola, Nike. I promise you, check this out. So many people believe that trending or popular hashtags are going to help their posts. No, it doesn't work that way. It helps the platforms, but it may or may not help your content. And pretty much it won't. And I'm going to show you how this works and how it doesn't work. This comes with a warning. So I'm going to use my warning voice, okay? Warning. What I teach about hashtags goes against everything you see and everything everyone is doing. It's different. It's backwards, but it works. Remember, I'm reaching 4 to 10 million people a week without boosting posts because it works. Oh, there it is. There's proof. It's the most misused and overused element on social. So let's take this example. Hashtag Motivation Monday. Let's do some simple math. Forget everything you know about social media. Clear the slate. Open your radar. Open your heart and soak this up. If 100,000 users in 1 week are all using that hashtag on 4 posts on a Monday, that's 400,000 posts with hashtag Motivation Monday, which means that just like these hashtags that are generic, that hundreds of thousands of people are using every day on dozens of posts, it means there are tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of posts with the same silly hashtag. It means your post is, wait a minute. There it is. There's your post. It's just another grain of sand on the beach of posts with the same Hashtag. I don't understand why people use hashtag repost. You don't need to tell people you're reposting it, and that's not going to help it be found. FYP and for your page is on almost every TikTok post. So how's it going to help your post be found? It just doesn't work like that. So do not, here's another tip. Do not put hashtags in the language of a sentence. Put them at the end of the post. So if I made a post on Drum Talk TV that said, I had the honor of being on hashtag MR411 with hashtag Beth and hashtag Christina, and we talked about hashtags. So the brain was not taught to read like that. It just doesn't work like that. Put the hashtags at the end. Stop doing what the 14-year-olds are doing just because you think they're of the age of what works on social media. If they don't have the results, don't copy them. 1 to 3 hashtags per post. When you put 10, not you, but someone you know, puts 10, 20 hashtags in a post, all you're doing is creating more distractions. I call it digital littering. You're creating more places for people to click on rather than your call to action that sends them to your website or whatever. 1 to 3 hashtags. Even Facebook is saying this now. This is some of the new changes that rolled out in June. The why is, I already explained that. It's just more distractions for people to click on. Again, stop following people over the cliff and copying what they're doing, because that's what a lot of people are doing. Not anyone here, but a lot of people you know. So here's my hashtag. Don't hashtag just a hashtag. People are hashtagging with things on one post that don't do anything. Hashtag rainy day. Hashtag got a fever. Hashtag can't get out of bed. Hashtag flat tire. So what is that? What if I really don't understand what people think, why hashtags like that work. So follow what I'm showing you, and I promise you'll get better results. You want your content to make people feel like this, not like this. So let's all sit at the grown-ups table and review your content and ask yourself, if you didn't know you and you saw your content, would you be making people feel like this or like this? Mark Zuckerberg even said recently, pages creating posts that people generally don't interact or comment on will see the biggest decreases in reach. So my message to that is, do not let your content suck. And we got to be honest with ourselves and ask ourselves, does my content evoke emotion from people and rock their world and inspire them? Or does it suck? And there's a lot of stuff out there that sucks. So this is what we've covered. Oh gosh, I'm always doing this. That's the wrong slide. Oh, there it is. There it is. That's what we've covered. And I'm not happy to stay on, answer more questions. That's what we've covered. But I'd love to work with anyone that's watching this. I'm going to show you 2 ways you can work with me. And just so you know, there's the proof. This is from March. The numbers are the same or bigger now. This is a 7-day report. As you can see there, this is what matters the most when it comes to statistics on any channel you have. Number 1 is reach. Nothing happens without reach. You got to reach people or your message means nothing. Post engagement, that's comments, shares, and the emojis. The emojis mean nothing. It's all about comments and shares, shares and comments, comments and shares. Comments are where we learn from our audience. Shares are where we grow organically. And then video views, because video carries with it our brand, our messaging, or what else we're curating. And then there's, and all this is without paid. Notice there's no green lines. This is all 100% organic. And this is, what is this? Oh, this is a client. This is one of the clients, 30 days after they took one of my courses. Their reach, their page views grew by 225%. Their engagement grew by 500%. Their video views grew by 501%. Their post reach down on the left grew by 430% just 30 days after taking one of my workshops. So here's what I'm offering to anybody watching this on the replay or live. My social media on steroids, start from where you are workshop. It's 2 hours long, maybe 3. It might be 5. Depends on how many people attend, how many questions, how far off the deep end I go explaining something. It's normally $14.97, but for all of you, it's only $4 $197, and that price is good for July 31st, 2021. And that's for me working with you one-on-one based on your journey, your challenges, your goals. However, if that price point doesn't fit or you're shy and you don't want to work with me one-on-one, that's okay. I'm also doing a group session that's normally $497. But for anyone that wants to join the group class online, it's all on Zoom, it's $197. And again, price is good for the 31st. You can email me there with SFWYA for start from where you are, hyphen MR11 in the subject. So I know that you saw this here, and then say, hey, sign me up, and I'll send you the registration information. But here's the thing. If you want to sign up for the group course, do the same thing. Just indicate whether or not you want to be one-on-one with me, and I'll send you that info, or if you want to be in the group with a bunch of other people, which is also a great experience because you can always learn from other people's questions. I'd like to do the group if we get a minimum of 8 people to sign up for it. If we're going to work as a group, let's work as a group, because Christina would have different questions than Beth would, than my wife Enja would, than my cat Sage would, and Henry the bass player versus Sally the pianist who also writes songs. So working with a group is fun. I love it. And you can learn about what else I have to offer at this website, advancedsocialmarketing.com. There's 3 other much, much deeper courses. And if you're interested in those, I'll give you 50% off. Just email me with MR411 50%. Tell me which course you're interested in, or just if you have questions, just because you email me with the course or the other workshop doesn't mean you're going to get strong-armed. You know, you can ask questions. Hey, I'm interested in the group one, but you've covered this, or what will I learn? Or here's my, happy to answer questions. I want you to feel comfortable with it. And that's the spiel. So please take pictures. I'm gonna just rewind real quick, folks. Get your cameras out and take a snapshot of. There's that one. Click, click, clickety, click. Or if you want to do it as a group, there's that one. And that's when it's going to be August 14th, which is a Saturday at noon Pacific time. And I'll send you all the information. We'll do it on Zoom. I'll make it fun, I promise. I don't do anything unless it's fun. Not even, I have to change the cat box, but I make it fun. Unfortunately, most of the things I do to make that fun causes me to step in it half the time. That's not fun. But I even make the cleanup of that fun and take a picture of that. There you go. Hope that was helpful. I'm happy to stay on and answer more questions, talk about music or business or raising kids. We have a lot of kids. My wife and I have a blended family of 11 kids and 19 grandkids and an 18-pound cat. Why do I bring that up? Because a lot of people say, I'm too busy to do marketing. I'm too busy to learn this stuff. I'm too busy to post. I'm kind of busy. And I get it, man. I'm still very hands-on. And I'm gonna
make that into a meme.
There you go. Yeah, you got that. I have it actually on a slide. Christina, you might have seen it in one of my other presentations where when I want people to know about me, if I'm going to bend your ear for half a day, you should know about me. And there is a slide that shows my wife and I. And then there's icons for 11 kids and then icons for 19 grandkids and a picture of Enja with my cat. So I can even talk about that.
That is so fabulous, Dan. Oh my gosh, what just amazing value you're bringing our community and our tribe. I have one question that you didn't cover, which I know a lot of people are curious about. What is your view? It could be a view or an opinion about influencers and micro influencers and people getting involved with them.
Good question.
That's a great question. And there is a lot of value to that in both ways, in the ways of being someone to get an influencer or micro influencer to work with them, and for someone to strive to be an influencer. Drum Talk TV is an influencer brand because we have such a large community, such a large tribe with such a diversity. I mean, followers from over 130 countries. Imagine the religions, cultures, races that we span with all of that, let alone the, of course, musical genres and everything, with a high level of engagement. So as individuals to become influencers, it'll help your career in a lot of ways because you'll get invited to do all sorts of things, podcasts, maybe write the book to a forward, or forward to a write the book to a forward, to write the forward to a book, to be interviewed in online programs, magazines, maybe collaborate with other people musically. It works both ways, whether you're going to build a relationship with an influencer or micro influencer, or strive to become one with yourself. And if you do latch yourself onto one or three or whatever, learn from them. How did you do it? How did you become a YouTube sensation? How did you become the person of tiny books who does so well talking about the music business or online lessons or whatever it is, and learn from them. Like Jim says, Jim Pluff, my friend, never take advice from someone who hasn't done what you want to do. Well, by the same token, ask people, learn from people who have done what you want to do. And in the music business, that really should be, at this point in 2021 and forward, build a huge following in love with what you do.
That's excellent advice.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
You know, and I can see easily how your strategies and methodology is applicable to other industries. It doesn't, you know, one of the things we teach is business, and good fundamentals
Right.
are the same across all businesses. It takes hard work and persistence. And if you were in real estate, you wouldn't be making hundreds of thousands of dollars in commissions the first or second or third year that you're in that business. You have to learn your audience, your market. What do they want? What's fair? And I mean, you make so much sense.
Oh, great.
So,
my wife would disagree. My wife says I never make any sense at all.
Well, that's true in our house as well, except when it comes to our grandson, who I think is going to be a drummer. He loves to bang things.
Oh, you got to have him watch Drum Talk TV on Facebook.
Oh, I will be signing him up. Have
Great.
no fear. But back to your social media. Could you tell our audience about how long it took for you to go from 100,000 to 1 million? I think that's probably another interesting facet of how you developed your strategy.
That's a good question. So the timeline is, I mentioned that in the first 7 weeks, we had 47,000 followers. We reached 100,000 about maybe 3 months later. So 5 months, 6 months in, we had 100,000 followers.
That's a lot.
Yeah, I remember where I was when we reached 500,000. How weird is that? I remember because I was with Lori, who I mentioned, who's no longer with Drum Talk TV, but she's a very good friend. She was our chief digital officer. And Lori and I were in New Hampshire teaching my deepest course to 13 brand managers at In Music Brands. In Music Brands makes Alesis recording gear, Alesis electronic drums, Ion Audio, Marantz, Den and DJ, and however many left till 13, 8 other things. So we were there teaching it in person for a week, and I was working with their multimedia department to show them how to change their videos so they'd work better on social. And I remember us meeting in the hall outside our rooms for breakfast, and both of us going like, did you see? Yeah, did you see? Are we talking about this? Yeah, 500,000. Like, we woke up and saw it. And the day before, we were like speculating at dinner or a break during that session, like, look how many we got. I think we're going to hit 500,000. Oh, that's crazy. It wasn't until we hit 500,000. Oh, by the way, so when was that? That was July 8th or 10th of 2015, 2015, which means we were only 2 years old. Yes, we were 2.5 years old. 2.5 years old. That's right. 2.5 years old, July of 2015, because I started the company in January of 2013, January 7th. And it wasn't until we hit 500,000 that I thought, okay, you know what? Let's go for 1 million. None of that ever occurred to me when I started Drum Talk TV. Even when I started getting speculative and granular with the data and really examining what's making things work, what's not working, let's adjust this, and looking at things I never thought, okay, let's go for 100,000 followers in 6 months. Now let's go for 2. That never crossed my mind. I didn't care about that. But when we hit 500,000, I was like, you know what? If we did this, why can't we get to 1 million? And we got to 1 million exactly, almost to the day, 2.5 years later. And I remember that day, but I also remember 2 months before that. 2 months before that, it was like this elephant on my back. Oh my God, we're at 900 and whatever it was, 970,000 followers. Can we just get to 1 million already and just get this over with? So I thought, okay, everyone's dancing in the streets about Instagram. So my son, Steve, our youngest, works for me. And I said, Steve, I'm going to put you through an Instagram course, learn everything about the mechanics of it, and let's start using Instagram. Let's just push this needle over on Facebook already. It didn't do squat. It didn't affect anything. So we abandoned Instagram for 3 years. That's how much I care about it. We let it just sit for 3 years, and we just pushed and pushed. And it was December 5th of whatever was 2.5 years later. So what year would that have been? 2017, 18, whatever it was. So in essence, it took us 5 years to get to 1 million. So let me ask you folks, if you could learn from someone how to go from zero, now maybe you won't get to 1 million, and that's not the point. I had to get to 100 to get to 1,000 to get to 10,000 to get to 50,000 to get to 100,000. It's all worked the same way all along the way. And you don't need 1 million followers to have mad success. The point is, would you like to learn from someone how I did that and how we've kept it going? Now, the algorithms have changed as such, where growth of followers, it's funny I'm saying this, the growth of followers aren't as exponential. However, you saw in the screenshots, we're getting 3, 4, 6,000 new followers a week. But we've been at 1 million and change for like 3 years. But what has grown is our engagement and our reach. Who cares how many followers you have if you're reaching 5, 10 times more than your amount of followers? It's all about the reach. So I think in 5 years, we did really well, considering we never boosted a post and we never used advertising. It was all understanding the audience, not making it a vanity project, and posting content that other people, it would resonate with them.
So you would, to summarize that, you would say that organic reach and growing natively with great content, incredible content that addresses your audience is far more sticky, that people are likely to walk away with. And also, it leads to better conversions into some sort of monetization for musicians and songwriters, right? If they know, like, and trust you, which is what you said at the beginning, and you're bringing them along on your journey by using excellent storytelling and real storytelling, not making up some Marvel story about yourself that nobody would believe.
Right. Just be genuine and authentic. Yep.
Like,
talk
don't
about
be
your
saying,
successes and your
oh
bumps
yeah,
and
I
bruises.
hung out with the Rolling Stones, when everybody's
Right.
like, yeah, you weren't even born.
And don't post pictures of, oh, thank you, Vic Firth, for 3 bricks of free drumsticks. What does that do for anybody?
Nobody cares.
Right.
Nobody cares. That's why, I always teach people, like, figure out 1 or 2 points that differentiate yourself.
Exactly. What differentiates you from everybody else? And
you got to learn your elevator pitch. My kids always tease me and say, oh, Mom, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, the reason I say I'm a Grammy nominated songwriter in the first time I meet somebody is it immediately establishes, okay, this chick has worked hard.
Right. And it's credibility.
Not that I got it, but it does take a long time to receive not just numbers, but credibility does not happen overnight. And so what you're saying is credibility is built by the trust your engaged followers have in you, correct?
Exactly. And that one of the biggest differences between organic and I'm going to take a quick sip of tea again. One sec. Excuse me. Is because what a lot of people do is they see that a post isn't performing, if they even know to look for that it's not getting comments, shares, video views. So they make the mistake of biting on that carrot that Instagram or Facebook are dangling, saying if you spend $100, you'll reach 10,000 more people. So they do that. But what they do is they boost something that is already broken to show it to more people. That reach isn't valuable. You're just you're paying Facebook or Instagram to show something that's not working to more people. That's not going to make it work. If you're going to boost anything, you want to boost something that already performed well on your channel because it's proven itself. It's already, so if it worked on your channel, it's going to work when you boost it. But rather than that, share it into groups. And I have a whole module on that whole crazy formula that I developed in the workshop that I'll be doing.
Oh, cool.
Because that's a big part of how we grew, is sharing into groups.
I've got 2 questions from people who have messaged me on my phone. One is, should I go back and rewrite older posts and change hashtags?
Yes, that's a great question. I had a client this morning that I work with for 2 hours once a week, as with many clients. And that is something she asked me. She said, should I delete posts that are, or should I rewrite? The same exact question. And the answer is yes. Now, you don't have to go back to the beginning of time, but now that you know some of these other things that work, go back like a month. And most people, with all due respect, most people are not posting so much that's really a big chore. For Drum Talk TV, it'd be a big chore. We post 5 to 7 times a day. We have followers in all 24 time zones. But I would go back and do that. Brand your hashtags. So, for instance, let's say instead of hashtag songwriting, if you folks, Beth and Christina, if you folks are going to post hashtag songwriting, change that to hashtag MR411 songwriting, hashtag MR411 social webinar, hashtag 411 music, MR411 music business. Everyone should brand their hashtags. Drum Talk TV does that when we cover the NAMM show. Think about this. It's 150,000 people attend the NAMM show in 4 days. Everyone's taking pictures, videos, posting them with the same hashtag, either hashtag NAMM or hashtag NAMM show. How is your content going to be found? Ours are branded hashtag DTTV for Drum Talk TV, hashtag DTTV NAMM 19 or 20, whatever the year is. That separates all our junk from everyone else's junk. And then when they click on one of those hashtags, it populates with only our posts, not every freaking NAMM show post. So that's why it's worth, because people will discover your older stuff. The better your strategies get, the more the past posts will get visibility. And there's other strategies that I'll teach that have to do with that as well.
That's so cool. Okay, the second question is, what if I don't like the way my posts looked a year ago? Now that I know what you're saying, should I just delete them?
If they don't mind answering, what do you mean by like the way they look? Are we talking aesthetically, graphically, videos that were shot vertically, or the way they're written? Because you can always rewrite something. We can't replace the video file and leave the post, or replace the image file. But I just kind of want to, before I answer, be a little more clear on what they mean by don't like the way our posts look.
I just wrote that, and they're like, doesn't older posts don't look like newer posts? Should I delete them, or will that mess up the algorithm?
it won't mess up the algorithm at all. What would be a determining factor of whether or not to delete something is this. Is the information completely irrelevant to your brand and your audience now? If it's totally irrelevant because things have changed or something expired, then I guess it's okay to delete it. But we still have posts from literally from day one, and our logo was different. I looked different. All the branding, the intro to the interviews are all different. They are all still up there because it's part of our story and it's still relevant. If someone just found us today, 8 years and 8 months into the Drum Talk TV journey, and they went into the videos album or photos album and just scrolled all the way back, they would see all kinds of stuff that looks different from it looks now. But is it still of value to them? Yeah. The interview I did with Gavin Harrison or Nico McBrain in our first year, 2013, is still valuable information. And that's, to me, what should determine whether or not you keep or delete something. I got to add something to that. Sorry.
Okay.
That also ties into what I said before, exceptional content that matters to them. Don't get hung up on, but that I'm fat there and I don't like how my hair looks. And I hate how that shirt. No one gives up. Okay. No one gives up. It's about the information and is it of value to them? We have to remove that emotional part. Quick story. I hope this will be helpful. If you don't mind, may I tell a quick story on that?
Oh yeah, I have one more. I have one last question.
Okay. Okay. I'll throw this in real quick because it ties in with the whole emotional attachment. When Lori started working with me in that first year, 4 months in, I knew her background. She has an amazing background in content marketing, the user experience. She took Toshiba out of the red and into the black by changing their whole online buying experience. She had some serious chops, and I knew this. So when she came to me and said, I think we need to update the visual branding of Drum Talk TV. And I said, oh, okay. What do you mean? She said, well, I don't know, the font and the colors. And I'm like, okay, well, what do you mean? She says, it looks like, I said, just tell me. She says, okay, it looks like a 50-year-old man did it. I turned 50 the week before this conversation. Okay. And I said, okay. I said, and she's 52 at the same time, like 6 months later. She's only like 6-7 months younger, but still to say that was like, oh, okay. So knowing her background, I said, let me ask you this. Do you know our audience well enough to know what would resonate with them, what kind of look and feel? She said, yeah, I do. I said, and you have the chops to produce something like that, redo all the breaks? She said, yeah, I do. I said, okay, so why don't you come up with 3 different schemes, and in a couple of weeks, we'll look at them together and pick one. She said, really? And I said, well, yeah, isn't that why you brought this up? She said, yeah, but in all my years of doing this and as a consultant, I get to this part of the conversation. People say, oh, but the fluffy unicorn with the lollipop in the cloud, that's my thing. And that font is me. That scrolling, that's me. And those are my color. And I stopped her and I said, I get it. But I'm going to filter my language just to be respectful. Okay. I'll edit myself. I said, I get that. But let me tell you something, Lori. I am never going to buy an effing thing from Drum Talk TV. I don't even have to like how it looks. As long as you say everyone else is going to like how it looks, that's what matters to me. So when we can, again, sit at the grown-ups table and I know we want our brand to be representative of ourselves as a brand. We want that. I get that. But don't get too emotionally attached. We've changed the look of interviews 4 times in 8 years. We've changed our logo 3 or 4 times. It's the same logo, but it's morphed, and you got to let that stuff go. And if we look at brands like Levi's, Nike, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Ford, and we look at how their products have changed, look at how their logos have changed, their taglines have even changed. That's what success is built on: being flexible and adaptable, staying motivated, and having a high energy level. You mix those 4 ingredients and you can't lose. And good strategies, of course. Next question. I hope that was helpful.
That is gold. Dan, you are like gold finger maybe.
Oh,
last question is, what are your thoughts about reusing posts because people have short attention spans?
Great question. I can hardly contain my excitement. It goes back to, again, if something's relevant, there's no reason to not post it again. And it's not because people have short attention spans. It's because there's no way for anyone who follows you on any one channel or all your channels, there's no way for anyone to see everything. Even if Facebook showed it to everyone, they would still miss stuff. They're not online. The notification gets pushed down. There's just so many reasons. So we still repost stuff from 6, 7, 8 years ago if it still has value, and it does, or we wouldn't have posted it to begin with. So reuse. That's called repurposing or resyndicating your own content. And it's totally okay to do that. A lot of people are afraid to post once a day because they're afraid they're going to wear their audience out. That's just, to me, because I know how it works, the most laughable thing. We post 6 or 5 to 7 times a day, and we're not wearing anyone out because no one sees everything. It just doesn't work like that. Reuse your content. That's how more people will see it. It's a great question. I love that one. Yeah.
Well, Dan, we don't want to take up any more of your time. It has been such a pleasure to talk with you tonight. I can't wait to listen to the podcast, Social Media on Steroids, which I am assuming you can find on all the platforms, Apple, Spotify.
Yep, you could find it on all of those. And it's also on my website, advancedsocialmarketing.com. There's a podcast page. It has all the episodes. I'm getting ready to put out, it's kind of new. I'm getting ready to put out episode 14.
Oh, great. That's terrific. Yeah. Well, you have given us so much to think about and really plan, think about planning our work or working to plan, which one is it? But just, I can't wait to dive into our stuff and put some of these practices into use. So thank you so much for joining us. People, watch Drum Talk TV, watch, follow, like, and subscribe to Advanced Marketing, Social Marketing.
AdvancedSocialMarketing.com.
On you and your YouTube channel, Drum Talk TV. And also
everywhere,
and don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to Music Row 411.
Yeah, do it, people.
We bring you the best of what is happening in our world of entertainment. We bring you thought leaders, we bring you free content, and our courses are the basics that you need to be successful, because we teach you how to be a musicpreneur, which is how to act like a business, and also how to develop and think like a brand. So on behalf of everybody at Music Row 411, thank you, Dan Shinder, for joining us. Thank you, Christina. And we will see you soon with another great expert live from Music Row 411. Good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Dan.